Okay, hi everyone. I'm Marina Kukla and this is Laura Faith. We're here again to talk about some basic skills and techniques for CBTw facilitators. This video will be listening for and reflecting emotions related to work. We tend to emphasize more heavily in CBTw reflecting thoughts and behaviors related to work, but we do sometimes reflect emotions too. There's also specific CBTw sessions and content that addresses common emotions that come up, like anger and difficult emotions, as well as stress and anxiety and things and emotional states that go along with that. Again, we'll present a couple of scenarios where I'll be the facilitator and Laura will play the veteran, and then we'll present a couple of different alternative reflections that you could use as a facilitator. Of course, these are just a couple that we came up with, but there are many appropriate and good reflections that you could also use instead. So in scenario one, in considering effectively communicating with people at work, veteran Laura discusses her experiences working with others and responding to them.
So at my job, we share workstations. I keep all my stuff really, really neat, like it's supposed to be. But then my coworker comes along and she messes everything up. And she even leaves her empty Coke bottle. To me, that is just so ridiculous. It's really disrespectful. And like, how am I supposed to work like that? The supervisor doesn't say anything to her, so I end up having to confront her and asking her what's her problem disrespecting me.
So you're saying that when your coworker messes up your workstation that you've worked hard to arrange and keep clean, you feel disrespected and sort of angry and you end up confronting her over it. What usually ends up happening once you confront her?
Well, I get in her face. I do yell at her. But I mean, then I'm the one who gets moved to a new station. They don't even care what she's doing. I mean, she's the one messing up my workstation. They don't enforce the rules unless they don't like you. So they like her, but they don't like me. So I get mad as hell the whole day and the next day too. So it's hard to even go back there. It's hard to keep working.
Wow, so this is super frustrating. So you're super angry and you confront her, but you've noticed that your anger doesn't go down. A lot of times it actually goes up and you're even more pissed. And then the boss comes down on you. It sounds like you just keep mulling that over in your mind. I'm wondering if there are other ways to deal with your anger when it affects your work. I mean, obviously this is really tough to go through and this sucks, but I'm wondering if there are ways to kind of do something about it, because it seems like you're the one who has to deal with the consequences and it's your job that gets affected when you get angry and confront her and not her. Are there other ways that you could sort of talk or communicate with her that might work a little bit better? What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I don't like my anger, but I mean, it's her doing it. She's messing up my workstation. So why should I have to do anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. So on the one hand, it's like you're not the one who's causing the problem, she is. But on the other hand, you're the one that gets sort of moved when you try to handle it and then things don't go that well. It sounds like you're saying it's frustrating and you focused a lot on sort of feeling disrespected, and that's tough. I wonder if this is one of those situations. Have other people experienced this, like at work, like other veterans in the group? Like, what do you guys think? Have you gone through this and how did you kind of handle it? So this is an example where, obviously righteous anger comes up a lot in CBTW. And when people feel disrespected, oftentimes we found that, they feel like they have to respond to that and they can't back down from it. And oftentimes they're sort of shooting themselves in the foot. And so this is one of those examples where I sort of made an empathetic response, but also tried to help her acknowledge not only the emotions that came with that, feeling really angry and frustrated and disrespected, but also there's a obviously underlying behavioral pattern there. So here we can see how the thoughts kind of linked with these emotions then resulted in this behavior, which is obviously very unhelpful. And so another way would be then to look a little bit more at those behavioral patterns themselves. So another scenario that demonstrates reflecting emotions related to work. So in considering behavioral barriers to work success, veteran Laura talks about her cycle of depression and how it affects her on the job.
I get super depressed, especially in the winter.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's part of my bipolar. I want to work, but then I just can't get out of bed. And then the place tells me not to come back when I have a bunch of no-shows. I mean, I've lost some good jobs over this depression. It just feels hopeless. And then when I lose the job, the depression hits me even harder.
Oh man. I mean, that's tough. And it sounds like your depression is one thing that's really gotten in the way of your success and, your work goals, that you really like some of these jobs. But when that depression hits, you stop showing up. And it sounds like it's hard to let people at your work know what's going on. And then it feels like that cycle makes your sadness even worse.
Yeah, I don't tell people what's going on. I mean, I'm afraid they'll just judge me. So I don't tell them, but maybe I should. I don't know. At least they would know
Mm-hmm.
I have some stuff going on, and they won't think that I'm just a lazy person.
So I hear you saying that you don't tell them because you're worried about what they might think of you, that they might look down on you or think that you're lazy or bad. And then that's one reason why you don't sort of let them know or communicate with them what's going on. And that's really tough. I'm wondering if that's something like we could take a look at those thoughts and also maybe bring the group in too to see what they think. I mean, are these helpful thoughts? Are they healthy? Are they accurate? So there's an example where we could go through as a group. One of our main techniques is to examine thoughts. So we've gone from these emotions and this depression and sadness, and also looking at what's underneath some of the bigger issues, which is thoughts about how people will look at you or that you'll look lazy or bad. And then we could examine these thoughts, which is obviously is a core technique or content that we go through with veterans. A separate reflection to Laura's initial comments might be something like, it sounds like your depression kind of leads to hopelessness and you've ended up losing some good jobs that way. Well, that's really tough to go through. It's really difficult. And you've dealt with this for a long time. And it sounds like now you're wondering how to make things better, or maybe how you can prevent this cycle or prevent that from happening again.
Yeah, I am. My depression has just affected a lot of things in my life. I've always had depression. I don't think it's going to go away. But I mean, when I'm working, my depression is a little bit better. I mean, it causes problems at work, but I feel like that's one of the few things that makes my depression a little bit easier to deal with.
Wow, that seems really important to me. So it sounds like actually working makes your depression and your mood better. And so it's tough that on the one hand, the depression leads to you losing jobs when it's hard to communicate with your supervisors what's going on. But on the other hand, work actually really helps. And so it seems like this is an important problem to address. So you'll notice there too, my initial response, especially, I tried to be really empathetic to this really painful experience that Laura's gone through of experiencing this depression and how it's affected her. And then the second time I focused a little bit on the hopelessness aspect. And then, maybe I'm imagining that she's thinking about, where do I go from here? So you're wondering about how to make things better. And so then she took it from there and talked about how work has actually been helpful for her. And so now that opens us up to thinking more about that, and then using the material to kind of think about how we can address these barriers and move forward. So perhaps some of these barriers won't be in place so much. So thanks, that's the end of this video and this set of videos for now. Appreciate you watching these, and we do plan to add more as we go along. hopefully these were helpful, and definitely let us know if you have any questions.